How's it going, YouTube? What's in today with another video? And today, guys, what I have to bring to you is Where to Handtrap Part 2. Now, I just want to thank you guys so much for 2,000 subs. I was just at 1,200 subs 5 days ago. You were all champions. That is so amazing to me because it's just honestly something that I've wanted to do for so long and something I really haven't been able to do. It's just outreach to so many people that don't have the chance to go to locals, don't have the chance to get a higher level of play, and really don't have like a group to bounce ideas off of and understand what the meta is or honestly where to stop it. And these types of videos are something that I've honestly built on for years with my own like notes and things that I've had. And the fact that I used to be like very bad and just not really knowing when to hand trap or anything. So I kind of like took it one day and I was just like, all right, we need to start learning. And so I started breaking down matchups to their very core. And then I started learning like, oh, this card's insane. Like, we need to stop it here. And I feel like as you start playing the game more, you'll start learning that too. But I hope that this is an easier segue for you to understand those moments, those choke points, and really start looking for them in newer decks as well. Because the faster that you can find the choke point, the faster that you can start winning those games. And it's just it's so honestly rewarding when you just know the information and you stop them, and then your opponent's then they're like, did you just stop me? And you're like, yeah, which is honestly really cool. So today is no different than last time, guys. I have 11 new decks to talk about because I know last time we were talking about the fact that we missed a couple decks, but it was because I was planning on doing a part 2. So I hope that you guys are ready for this one. Lots of new decks in here to talk about and lots of things that can honestly come up at a tournament and just be really unexpected. So again, thank you so much for all the support. I appreciate every single one of you. I'm just honestly excited to see once we push for like 3K, 4K, and just like how big we actually go. But you know, I'm just going to keep posting videos that help people, and we'll go from there, the one step at a time. So without further ado, let's hop right into my first deck here, and that is Plunder. Now, Plunder is honestly one of my favorite sleepers right now. This deck is so cool. It's so gas. It just does a lot, and a lot of people honestly just don't know what the deck does, and so they auto-lose to the deck, which is why you guys are here today to learn how to beat it. That's what we're here to do all the time. So the first thing you got to understand is that Ash is a god card against this deck. So all the extra deck monsters can be ashed. Something that is just unexpected and a lot of you might not know is that every single one of the extra deck monsters can get ashed. So the Link 2 draws a card, Ash. The Moark adds a spell or trap, Ash. The Brawn adds a monster, Ash. And then the Liss adds a Plunder card, Ash. So even if they try to like banish a card you control or like a monster, you can just like Ash Moark, which is pretty nuts. So this card is just your simple answer to this deck. Always Valor or Imperm. These two though, these two are the most deadly of the extra deck, honestly. This being able to banish a card that you have as a monster, and this card also being able to just tutor out the free interruptions with materials attached to make them quick effects, is always very very deadly as well. So make sure that you're on top of these. Also make sure that Ash is in your deck versus this deck. The other thing that is very, very good against this deck is they have a Raven. Raven is cracked. It allows you to add a card that's Plunder back from engraved to your hand, and then you're able to special summon this card. So it's a very free extender that gets you back materials because every single one of the effects make you pitch a Plunder card. So it just is a good way to have resource management, which the deck really lacks on, and once it falls behind, it really falls behind. So the deck kind of loses to itself, but it also has a lot of ways to get itself back into the game, especially things like Raven. Always bell this card. The fact that it adds a card back from grave to hand, always bell this card. It's just so free because when it goes from the field to the grave, you're allowed to summon any of the Plunder cards that are in your spell and trap card zone to the field. So very, very good card. Very, very cracked. Always bell this thing. The last thing isn't as important, but it's still another free extender for them. So Golden Hair can activate in the grave to summon itself. Always Meister this thing if you have Meister around, which you should. Honestly, Meister is fantastic, but this is just a very low-end interaction, but always make sure that if you do have Meister waiting for that Golden Hair in the graveyard, to go ahead and Meister that. Hopefully this makes this matchup a little easier for you and a little bit more understood, because I know this matchup can be a little confusing sometimes, but Ash is normally the answer, or a bell for the Raven. Moving forward. Heroes. Now, heroes are going to be really interesting come the new set. I believe this all comes out in Bode, like the new stuff. So they have this thing called D-Force. Allows them basically just to add plasma, and then your opponent can't target anything on your board. So you just have an untargetable board with plasma, which can be a problem. But I think that there's very easy ways to get around this and not really worry about plasma. Also, the fact that the new hero deck, like, it's so bad. Like, don't play the new D-Force and plasma stuff, because, like, a lot of people, what I see is they sack their entire board and just go straight into plasma. And, like, that's such, like, not a good play to do. Because I've seen, like, okay hero boards. The only problem with hero is the fact that, like, they can't put up, like, a real negation, because, like, all their effects, like, lock them into heroes, right? So they can't really do anything, like, too meaningful. Dark Law is very scary, which my first interaction here is always save Imperm or Valor for the Shadow Mist summon, like the special summon. You always just want to stop Mass Change and put them on You Gotta Have It, because, like, if you don't have to deal with the Dark Law, then that just means that you're in a very good position and that you are honestly probably winning that game. Because their cards don't really do a whole lot. The only other thing they really have to be on top of is ashing or using Ogre on the increase, so it can't go like the free tutor out of a monster and they go straight into like their Cross Crusader and then summon another one and go Bear. So just always make sure you're on Ogre or Ash. All their combos lead up to them just going into increase. So that's something you really have to know as well. This is always what they're trying to get to at the end of the day. The last thing too is that at the end of their main phase 1, always Nibiru them. Just wait till they're done. They don't put up any negations, so you just are able to Nibiru them, no problem. And that's why this matchup can get pretty free. But always just save this card, have it around. It's always in my sideboard at least, because you never really know when it's going to come in handy. But this is God card against this deck. But always try to stop the increase from going off, because this is like their easiest way to get full combo. Moving forward, Altergeist. Now, Altergeist is a matchup that I've been getting a lot of questions about. Ghost Ogre will be a card that we will all be playing. Like, it's just going to be the new bill. This card is absolutely correct. This will be around. So Ghost Ogre on spoofing when they shuffle one back, very, very good. Activate spoofing, cost Ogre, or like Ash. That's why I also have Ash over here, because you can use either on spoofing. This is very, very detrimental. A lot of times I see people get really cocky and they'll shuffle away like they're multi-faker. I've seen it. But you just want to really wait for the right timing. Don't like randomly Ogre or something. Just always make sure that you're waiting for the spoofing. So, like, I don't really love ashing multi-faker, and I know that's why you don't see it here, is because, like, if you ash multi-faker, usually that means that you're going second and that you're just going to walk straight into a protocol, and that's just not something that you want to do. So always wait for, like, the spoofing, or, like, when they normal mill you seek and try to search, that's when you ash, just because that's more meaningful at the end of the day. Next up too is Marionetter. Always make sure that you're impriming or veiling the Marionetter. It's just the free resources of protocol or manifestation and looping manifestation. You just don't want it to happen. So these would be my hits for this deck. Honestly, Ogre Ash and the spoofing is just insane. But this is probably the best you're going to get at the end of the day for this matchup. Moving forward though, we have the Shadal Invoked Dogmatica. A lot of people were asking me about this deck and where it was, but this was on purpose because I wanted to do a part 2. So I hope that you guys are happy to see it here, because I have 2 different ways to hit it. I have it going second and going first. If you are going second, you are absolutely belling Schism 100%. Schism is going to sound out the window. I don't really care about window too much when I'm playing Striker. I really care about like Ariel and Opcolon. So for me, I'm definitely always belling this anyways. But Bell and the Schism is the easiest way to stop their grind game and to really shut them down pretty fast. And also avoid the window. If I'm going second, I'm always just ashing the Alistair. I'm going to put them on Gotta Have the Invocation in hand, like hard draw it. Just because like I don't want to deal with Makaba. And I don't really think that it's that relevant to wait on Ash for anything else, because they won't even have like real Shadal fusions at that point until you're going first. So always just Ash Alistair. And then last but not least, you're always going to Imperm or Valor the Maximus, because, you know, Schism and Titanclad. You just don't want them to be able to grow a board very fast, and just hitting the Maximus early is super nice. And you also don't give them the information about what you're playing when it's game 1 and you have to like throw things in the graveyard. So definitely good to just imperm this. If you're going first though, I don't want my board cracked, so I'm always belling the Servant. 100% saving Ash for fusion. 100%. They will try to bait everything out of you, but you just hold the Ash and you wait for the fusion, because other than that, like, it's gonna be a rough go. But if you stop this, it's gonna be very detrimental to them. The other thing is you're always impriming or veiling. Again, the Alistair, you're just going to put them on. You got to have the invocation. But this is just always correct, honestly. If they have Meltdown, you just let Meltdown resolve and then hit the Alistair. But other than that, because Meltdown will still be on the board, right? So, like, that's fine. Just wait for the Alistair. But this is always, like, the scarier thing to see. But I hope that makes that matchup a little easier for you, especially as a servant, being able to send like the Natis and whatnot. It's just a really easy way to like crack the board, because then it can like search Ecclesia and like special Ecclesia, special the Fleur de Lis, and just like keep cracking your board. And I just don't want that to happen. But always Ash on Infusion. Moving forward though, we have the Cyber Dragon deck. This one, I have a couple things that it's going to be kind of like your call, but we'll talk about that. So first things first is you always want to bell the Overload Fusion. You should be playing 3 of this in Prosperity if you're playing Cyber, but you always just want to bell this right away, because this is like such a scary card and you don't want to like auto die to this deck. So always hold your bell for the Overload. Next up is Ash. So this is what I was talking about. It's kind of like your call, is that you can either let them get the core effect and like search their gas that they need, or you can wait and see if they have the duplication, because a lot of times you just get punished if you like Ash this and they have this. It's gonna be another really bad time. But you should really be aware too that if you are going second, or no, sorry, if you're going first and you make like a big board and like you have an ultimateness or like a Dragoon on field, if you see core, you should probably just negate it right away, because if they get core effect off, they can search a Kaiju. So that's where you'd probably want to auto just do core. I personally would probably save for the duplication, but it also is a tough decision sometimes when they have core, and you have to really decide, like, is it worth it? Because like if they do have dupe, it's gonna be game, but like if they don't and like they core effect, they could get a lot. So again, this is really up to your own discretion. I would really save for dupe. Because they do have Prosperity, so it's not unheard of for them to be able to just dig for a dupe. And then make it a really tough game on you. The next thing up too is that you can imperm or Veiler. This is the same thing, the same reason why I have both of these here, is that the gas or the Kaiju, or you can nail the Anaconda so they can't just immediately go into the Rampage, because even if they go core at Overload, like you can just, or not Overload, Cyberload, you can go ahead and negate it, but they can also just go Anaconda. So it's really up to you on how you want to do that. This would also make them summon out 2 cores as well if you do imperm their core, if they did have machine dupe. So again, it's really up to your own discretion how you want to stop this deck. But I personally would wait for Anaconda, and I would wait for the duplication because of things like Prosperity. Again, it's just like too real for them to be able to actually search for it. Next up here, we have the Madolche deck. So Madolche is one of those interesting matchups that is just basically death or they die. It's one of those things where if they resolve Angeli as well, it's gonna be a rough go. So first things first, Ash, Imperm, Veiler, whatever you got, Gamma, throw it right in the Angeli. Angeli is just so detrimental because like the second they get to go off and like you don't have interruption, they get to a very nasty board and you want to be able to shut that down ASAP. The other thing too is Petting Sensor can actually like summon Angeli from the deck and like summon itself for free. So you want to be able to Gamma or Ash this in hand. But like if not, you can always just like wait for this to be summoned and then like Gamma this. So like just kind of be aware that Angeli is a thing that you like need to stop. This is also pretty scary though. So just make sure that you are aware this is a card, but also trying to stop the Angeli, because this is really what gives them the gas that they need. The other thing too is that they just got Salon, and since we'll be playing Ghost Ogre, this is a very good Ghost Ogre target because you want them to get their traps so this card tutors out. This card is actually kind of busted, so Ghost Ogre really fixes that problem for you. Moving forward, we have the Adamant Spitter deck. So Adamant Spitter is really straightforward, but it's also kind of not. If you have Ash, I usually just hit the Researcher. But the other really good target is actually just like the level 6 Wind Synchro Raptite, because it adds an Adamant Spitter card, so they can add things like Signs, which is just like broken full combo. So definitely be aware of that too. That the Raptite is really good hit, but like the Researcher is also just like free gas for them. So that's something that you really want to be on top of, at least hitting with the Ash. The other thing too is that in the draw phase or the standby phase, you should be imperming the Hulk. Like, you need to imperm the Hulk. It's very, very good. This card is actually really busted in this deck because you can go ahead and summon out like your Quandex or your Formula and go straight into like your Crystal Wing or your Satellite Warrior and like pop a bunch of cards. And then also Veiling the other rock that gets summoned from it, like the Researcher or what have you. Because it can always like summon Researcher and like synchro off and then use signs and like summon it back, and you just don't want this to go off, honestly. But it's still a very good hit in the deck. So there isn't really a whole lot to say about this, but again, just either Researcher or like the Reptite, and then making sure the Hulk doesn't go off. Next up is Pendulum. So Pendulum, if you're not aware of like what the deck is doing nowadays, it's really focusing heavy on Scythe. So they'll go like Tornado Dragon Dagda and then like set the Scythe and pop it on your turn. So you really want to make sure that you are belling the Scythe effect in the graveyard to summon itself back, so you don't get like a big L to an extra deck lockout. The Ash and the Pen Call has always just been standard. Like, you should always just know to do this because they go -1. And who doesn't love when their opponent goes -1? So this is a card that really just needs to be stopped all the time. Bell the Scythe so you don't get locked out of your extra deck. Like almost every Pendulum list I've seen so far has been doing this. The next thing too is that using Imperm on the Appaloosa on your turn or Veiling it on their turn, and just really trying to like bait stuff out. Very, very good. Just always trying to get like as many negates off of this thing as possible, because the faster that you can like swing over the Appaloosa, again, the only other thing they're really trying to do with the deck right now is like Scythe, and then they'll try to go ahead and do the like the blowout on the follow-up turn. The other good thing too that you can do is I would add right here would be Ghost Ogre. Again, with that interaction with the two. I always just try to get Appaloosa as small as possible, just run it over and just deal with the board from there, and set up my own board. But again, Appaloosa is like, it's very good, but like the deck really, really leans on Appaloosa and Scythe right now. The other thing too is I wouldn't Nibiru until they use Harmonizing effect, like every single time. Just wait for the Harmonizing to come out, use the effect, and then Nibiru. Because you never really know what they're going to go into from there. And they might threaten the Appaloosa early and you can hit them early with a Nibiru, but I still think that it's worth it to go ahead and wait for the Harmonizing Magician to come out and then Nibiru them. Next up is Unchained. I actually got asked about this quite a few times. I want to break this down very simply. I actually understand this matchup pretty well. So very rarely do I actually play against this, but I usually don't do too bad. So when they activate the Aruha, they're really just popping a set trap that they have. Usually it's like this one, the Chamber. So they'll go like set Chamber, activate Aruha, pop Chamber, and they're expecting to get a monster off of this, like the dog on like this one. So if you go ahead and just Ash the Chamber, a lot of times it's just like game against them unless they have like the Abominable in hand. Because it's really detrimental to them that they cannot get to another monster. The other thing too is that Gamma, the Aruha in hand, is pretty insane because it only gets its effect if it's on field when it's destroyed. If it gets destroyed in hand, it doesn't matter. It doesn't get affected at all, and it's just kind of gone. The other thing too is if you are playing against this deck, Veiler the Disaster on your opponent's turn, and then always Imperm the Rage before you play. It's a quick effect to link summon with your opponent's monster, and then this also targets an opponent's monster, but you can just like Veiler it. It's not a quick effect. So always make sure that you are Veilering this and then Imperming this. Always very good interaction. Last but not least, guys, we have Eldlik. So never Ash the Cursed Eldlin. Just please don't. They're just waiting to bait you on a ref. So just always wait on the Ash for the ref because it will be coming. This is just something that happens in this deck now. They will try to bait you with Cursed Eldlin. Again, just always wait for ref. Belling the Sanguine is very strong because you're just trying to control where the Golden Lord is. If you can control them on their Golden Lord summon, because like they'll activate like Haquero and Conch and then activate Sanguine last, and then you'll bell it, and then like the other traps will summon for like no effect, honestly. And then they don't really do a whole lot. So like the more they go through, the less their grind game becomes. And then you just kind of control as much as possible when their Golden Lord hits the board. I play Striker, so I always like Shark Cannon immediately. and then I like make them grind to find another one. And the deck just really gets outgassed pretty fast. The other thing too is you should be playing Meister again because this card's broken, but you can Meister out all of the trap effects in the graveyard when they're being banished for cost. So this is another really good thing because you can like Meister the Sanguine so they can't get their Conch or their Haquero, or if they're banishing Haquero, then you can Meister that so they can't get a Sanguine or a spell, so they can't get to a Golden Lord, and you really stunt them. So if you always just keep hitting like the Conchs or the Haqueros in grave, they can't really play the game because they can't get to Golden Lord. So that's a really, really good interaction to know in that deck, that matchup. So I do hope this helped you guys. There's so many decks out there still that I can cover, and other videos to be made on this type of thing. And every single time that a format changes or we get a format shift, I'll be making another video just like this so we get an updated version on like where to hit, where to go, and how to play against the deck. So again, I really do hope this helped you guys. I just really want to put out content that does become helpful and helps you learn all the minute interactions as well, because some of them really aren't that big, but they still got to be known, right? So I hope that everyone has a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys all in the next video. Thank you so much.